Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really plunge into some fascinating topics, unearthing insights from the sources you give us.
That's right.
And today, we're embarking on something deeply personal, I think, and definitely historically significant.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
We're looking at the life of Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our guide is his official biography, Pass It On.
Hmm.
And we're not just, recounting facts here. We're really trying to explore the crucible of experience that forged this global movement.
Absolutely. It's such a compelling story because, well, it's much more than just a biography, isn't it?
Right.
It's really the genesis of a worldwide spiritual movement,
Yeah.
and it's rooted in one man's profound personal transformation.
Yeah.
So we'll trace Bill Wilson's path. It's extraordinary, really, from a pretty challenging childhood in Vermont
Mm-hmm.
to the, dizzying heights of Wall Street, then through the absolutely devastating grip of alcoholism.
Devastating.
And finally, to his pivotal role, almost accidental in some ways, in creating a path to recovery for millions.
Yeah.
We're looking at the complex, brilliant, and, well, deeply human man behind it all. He wasn't presented as a saint, far from it.
No, not at all. More relatable, maybe. A struggling individual whose insight somehow became universal.
Exactly. That's the core of it.
So what's our mission today? We're taking that deep dive into the forces that really shaped Bill Wilson.
Mm,
We want to understand how his personal struggles, those moments of profound despair, and then ultimately these astonishing spiritual experiences, how they all converged.
right. How they laid the bedrock for Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. So get ready to explore not just the origins of this enduring legacy, but also the very human lessons embedded within it. What we can maybe take away.
Definitely. Let's get into it.
The early years and unraveling.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Our journey begins in Vermont. Stark, beautiful landscape. Bill Wilson, born 1895. And his childhood was marked by this profound absence, really. His parents left him with his grandparents.
Yeah, abandonment. That's a heavy start.
It is. And while our source Pass It On, it doesn't detail the emotional impact exhaustively, it does paint this rather poignant picture of his early life.
How so?
Well, it notes his later burial on East Dorset hillside, overlooking the valley, where, as a boy, he'd fashioned a boomerang, quaffed cider with Mark Whalen, and lamented the death of Bertha Banford.
Wow. That imagery, it does hint at something, doesn't it? Simple joys, but also this foundational loss, maybe a longing.
Exactly. It sort of sets a tone for a life that would grapple with deep-seated emotional pain, often, maybe, without even realizing the root cause.
Well, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these early experiences, even the ones that are just hinted at, they can subtly shape someone's entire trajectory.
Right.
But our brains, they're remarkably resilient. Key neural circuits keep developing throughout our lives.
So there's always potential for change.
Absolutely. A foundation for later transformation, even if childhood wasn't ideal, the capacity for a new beginning, it persists.
That feels important for his story.
It is. And one source puts it quite profoundly, suggesting we can choose our thoughts. Breaking bad thought habits is hard, sure, but possible.
Sufficient is it to know that the way we lived our yesterday has determined for us ours today. Something like that.
Exactly. That innate resilience, that unconscious drive to find our place, it's a key underlying theme in Bill's story. It kind of sets the stage for what comes later.
Okay, so from those Vermont roots, marked by this sense of being adrift, he just catapults himself to Wall Street,
Yeah.
dizzying highs.
Yeah, big shift.
The sources show this man driven by ambition, a really keen intellect, navigating complex finance.
A sharp mind.
But then, even after his life had gone, quote, quite broke, he returns to Wall Street.
Right. Not just for the money, though.
No, that's the interesting part. He said he was grateful for the opportunity to rediscover that there are many fine people in New York's financial district.
Yeah.
Okay, but more importantly,
Yes.
he found it necessary, his words, to experience staying sober in the very surroundings where alcohol had cut me down.
Wow. That's intense. Not just going back, but going back to conquer something right there on the battlefield.
Exactly. It feels like this powerful, almost desperate connection between the environment, his past failures, and this need to face it head on, sober.
Like proving something to himself, reclaiming that space.
Yeah, mastering that specific dragon, maybe.
And if we connect that drive, that ambition to the bigger picture, when it gets untethered from, say, genuine purpose or
It
self-awareness.
can be dangerous.
It really can dig disastrous pitfalls, as one source puts it. We might insist upon dominating the people we know, or we depend upon them far too much.
That sounds like the egomania the sources mentioned.
Exactly. And it's not always about being a bad person per se. It's often this desperate, self-defeating attempt to control things, maybe stemming from earlier feelings of powerlessness, like that hint of abandonment.
Interesting connection. So the drive for achievement becomes maybe a compensation?
Could be an attempt to fill a void, assert mastery. But the paradox is it leads to disappointment when the world or people inevitably don't meet those demands.
Yeah.
It raises a question for all of us, really. How much of our own drive is about purpose versus, compensating for something else? Fear of inadequacy.
That's a good question. For Bill, that relentless drive eventually collided head-on with this devastating reality.
Yeah.
He was, as he put it, a hopeless drunk.
Stark self-assessment.
And he admits, with this heartbreaking honesty, I thought I was the only person in the world who knew that sooner or later I was going to get drunk.
Ah, that sense of isolation, that grim foreknowledge, it's so common in these stories, isn't it?
It really is, this private, terrifying knowledge that you're losing control even if nobody else quite sees it yet.
Yeah, the internal battle.
And he struggled, like so many, to even link the drinking and the failures. He said, I don't know whether I drank to cover up being a failure or whether I drank and then missed the deals. I was able to rationalize it anyway.
That rationalization, it's key, isn't it?
Absolutely. A powerful defense mechanism to protect the addiction itself, shield the ego from the obvious truth.
Yeah.
He describes himself then as full of self-pity, never grasping all the people I hurt, all the friends I abused, the humiliation of my family, just trapped.
Well, and what's so insidious about the disease, what Bill felt so acutely, is how the alcoholic blames everyone and everything around him, right? Instead of looking inward.
Yeah, deflection.
Liquor isn't the enemy, it becomes the ally. Provides those temporary good feelings, a shelter from the storm, inside and out.
Creates that dream world of alcoholic fantasy, as the source calls it.
Exactly. Alcohol distorts reality, offers false comfort, even a twisted sense of connection sometimes.
While the internal conflict just rages. Cravings versus the desire not to drink.
Agonizing. As one source says, being unable to trust yourself is terrifying. That internal fracture, that self-distrust, it's the core of addiction.
And it's learned behavior, but with deep roots.
Deep neurobiological underpinnings, yes. Its form varies, depending on the pattern, the dose, the situation, brain development stage, expectations. It's complex.
So the brain gets hijacked, basically.
Pretty much. Primed to value actions driven by unconscious processes. It hijacks the reward system, driving compulsive behavior even when you consciously know it's destructive. A physiological trap reinforcing a psychological delusion.
Wow.
Okay.
The moment of truth.
So Bill's journey hits absolute rock bottom in December 1934. Hospitalized again, reeling from a binge, utter defeat.
The nadir.
And it's right there, in that despair, that he has this sudden and overwhelming spiritual experience.
Not a gentle dawning, then.
No. The devastating lows just gave way to something completely unexpected, something that ripped through that alcoholic fantasy.
What did he describe?
Crying out, please God, don't let me die like this. And then with this clarity, he felt a presence in the room.
Wow.
That was the moment he'd taken the plunge, hit bottom. It led to this desperate, unbidden prayer for instruction and knowledge. A complete surrender, a total giving up of that self-will.
Exactly. But this turning point wasn't just internal collapse, right? There was a key figure.
Ah, yes. Dr. William D. Silkworth.
Our sources call him the benign little doctor who loved drunks. Physician-in-chief at Towns Hospital in New York.
A crucial figure. His empathy, his clinical understanding, it was pivotal for Bill.
He gave Bill what Bill called indispensable passwords. How did he define alcoholism?
With two shattering phrases: the obsession of the mind that compels us to drink, and the allergy of the body that condemns us to go mad or die.
Obsession and allergy, not a moral failing.
Exactly, a scientific explanation. It punctured the toughest alcoholic ego by giving this concrete, non-moralistic understanding.
That must have been revolutionary at the time.
Absolutely. It shifted blame from willpower to a medical reality, validated their experience while stripping away defenses. Alcoholics felt so isolated, thinking they were the only ones. Silkworth gave it a name.
You can see why that was so impactful. But I wonder, hearing allergy of the body that condemns us to go mad or die, could that also feel, well, disempowering?
That's a fair point. It's a stark reality.
How did early AA balance that harshness with hope.
I think by presenting it not to disempower, but to show the absolute necessity of a radical solution, something beyond self-will. That's where the hope comes in. Admitting defeat opens the door to a different kind of help.
Okay. And then imagine the relief, the clarity, when Silkworth actually validated Bill's spiritual experience.
Yeah, that was huge.
Telling him, no, Bill, you are not hallucinating. Whatever you've got, you had better hang on to. It is so much better than what you had only an hour ago.
From a respected man of science, that's powerful validation, an anchor for Bill's awakening.
A lifeline, right. Permission to embrace this profound shift without thinking he was crazy. That intersection of science and spirit.
Crucial. And it highlights this key aspect of recovery, the spiritual awakening.
Which wasn't unique to Bill.
Not at all. Many AA members, even former agnostics or atheists, report they actually felt the presence of God at this stage, sometimes a healing tranquility.
And the sources say this awakening can banish the desire to drink.
Yes, it's about the quality of faith, not the quantity. A willingness to clean house, let grace enter.
The realization that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Exactly. Not necessarily a specific religious dogma, more a personal conception of my own personal God, or just recognizing a sustaining faith.
Detaching from the external, seeking a different kind of connection, a recalibration.
Which raises that important question. What is a spiritual awakening for someone without a traditional religious background, an atheist, say?
Right. What does that look like?
For many, it's connecting to an essential aliveness, maybe, or realizing they're not alone anymore, experiencing a presence that brings comfort, guidance, a sense of interconnectedness that breaks that self-centered isolation.
So an internal shift, not necessarily needing a church.
It's an open heart, really, a willingness to believe in something beyond their own struggling self.
The birth of a movement.
Okay, so Bill has this profound experience, this taste of sobriety, but he knows instinctively he's not safe yet.
The threat of relapse is terrifyingly real.
Right. He needs to solidify this, and he quickly realizes he has to carry this message to alcoholics.
The beginning of 12th step work.
Yeah, and initially he saw it almost selfishly as insurance against a slip for himself.
Which highlights that foundational kind of counterintuitive principle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Helping others helps you stay sober.
Exactly. He understood that staying sober just for himself or for family or a job that was foolish and dangerous, those things can change, disappoint.
So his own survival was tied to reaching out, turning outward.
Intricately linked. A radical shift from egomania to altruism, but as a survival mechanism, not just a moral nice-to-have.
That's a crucial insight. Self-preservation through self-forgetting. It's a profound paradox. And it's that recognition that the individual alcoholic was hopelessly limited. He could transcend that limitation only by reaching beyond himself to others.
The communal aspect. Shifting from isolated struggle to shared purpose, mutual support.
Vital. Finding you're just one of many who've struggled. That shared experience is powerful. It shatters the isolation.
And the early members knew this intuitively.
Seems so. When working with newcomers, they'd just introduce themselves and start telling me their experiences. No lectures?
Just storytelling.
Yeah. Fostering honesty, identification, letting people see their own conflicts in other stories, creates belonging, reduces shame. Shared vulnerability becomes strength.
So this urgency to connect, this instinct, it leads to that providential meeting, May 12th, 1935. Dr. Robert Smith, Dr. Bob.
A pivotal date.
Described as a physician and an alcoholic in desperate need.
Henrietta Seiberling, the mutual acquaintance from the Oxford group, saw Bill's arrival in Akron as guidance, right?
Yeah.
The help they needed for Dr. Bob.
Exactly. Their fourth meeting, meant to be brief, goes on for hours.
Start of it all.
And less than a month later, June 10th, 1935, Dr. Bob has his last drink. Many see that as the official start of AA.
Imagine his relief. He was apparently completely spent, even suicidal before that meeting.
Just the simple words of comfort, shared experience from Bill and Ann Smith, literally life-changing.
And that early framework, it was heavily influenced by the Oxford group, the Christian evangelical movement.
Right. Dr. Bob had been going to their meetings since '33.
And their principles, absolute honesty, surrender to God, sharing, were fundamental to those first Bill and Bob talks and the early meetings.
Early Akron meetings even started and ended with prayer. Dr. Bob called them a Christian fellowship.
Yeah, reflecting that origin. But it was that connection to a spiritual path rather than strictly religious that was key. It offered structure, self-examination, mutual support that resonated.
They're not rigidly religious, a framework Bill and Bob would later adapt.
Precise.
Which leads to that interesting point. By late 1939, Akron AA breaks away from the Oxford group.
Yeah, a significant decision.
For pragmatic reasons, it got too crowded at T. Henry's, where they met. They needed their own space.
Practicalities matter.
But also deeper reasons. A desire to avoid being labeled solely religious. That earlier publicity branding them alcoholics and God.
An unwelcome title, they called it.
Right. They realized it was actually turning people away. They needed a broader, more inclusive identity, not just for Christians.
That strategic pivot was incredibly insightful, vital for AA's future.
So, drawing from the Oxford group, but carving their own path.
Exactly. They kept the honesty, the identification through storytelling, but refined it, instead of seeking increased accomplishment or moral superiority.
Which could feed the egomania again.
Right. AA promoted discovering that others have been or are bedeviled by the same conflicts, aiming for lowered aim, radical acceptance.
That allowed for broader appeal, kept the focus purely on recovery.
Yes, free from other agendas. It underscored that members don't need to try too hard to be perfect. They can relax and accept the program. Humility, tolerance, shared experience, those are the keys.
Practical. Focused on the suffering alcoholic.
With that understanding that God cannot teach anyone who is trusting in a crutch. If you're still relying on self-will, you're not open to real progress.
Codifying the principles, the 12 steps.
So the fellowship is growing fast. And a critical step comes in April 1939, publishing the book Alcoholics Anonymous.
The big book. Foundational.
It codified the spiritual idea of the society in the 12 steps, described alcoholism from the inside, showed how to apply the steps.
And Bill W. wrote those first 11 chapters himself, a huge undertaking.
It became the basic text, proof that the virtually impossible had become possible.
And the 12 steps themselves, they represent a way of life for daily practice, restoring health and contented sobriety.
A simple program to be lived, not just understood intellectually at first.
Right. Understanding comes through experience. Doing over endless thinking because, as one source says, when we're always in our own heads, we're behind enemy lines.
Okay, let's dig into some core ideas. These really are the blueprint Bill and Bob uncovered.
Let's do it.
Step 1. Powerlessness and unmanageability. This is radical, a shocking admission for many.
The big book says, no other kind of bankruptcy is like this one. Utter defeat.
To admit that, glass in hand, we have warped our minds into such an obsession that only an act of providence can remove it. Complete surrender.
Acknowledging only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps toward liberation and strength, realizing self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was a total liability with alcohol.
And for some, like Sandy in one source, powerless felt disempowering at first.
Right, but she reframed it as surrender, as in surrendering to the truth, finding that I surrender because I cannot control the amount and the way I use.
That flexibility in interpretation seems key, making it personally accessible, moving beyond words to the reality.
Precisely. That initial, often agonizing surrender is the main taproot. It shatters the core delusion. This time it will be different. It creates the void for something new. Radical acceptance.
Okay, then step 2. A power greater than ourselves. Coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Crucially, not rigid dogma, fostering a personal conception of my own personal God.
The emphasis is on the quality of faith rather than its quantity. Realizing we were self-deceived, incapable of receiving grace otherwise.
It acknowledges that intellectual arguments or superficial religion aren't enough. It humbly invites accepting something beyond your own will, sustaining faith.
But for someone who's maybe been atheist for decades, how does that coming to believe actually happen? What does it feel like?
That's where it gets personal and often experiential. This power is often felt directly, not as theology, but as an undeniable internal shift.
Like that presence in the room.
Or a deep sense of peace. It's about accepting that God cannot teach anyone who is trusting in a crutch. If the ego is still clinging to self-sufficiency, you're closed off.
Letting go of the need to control opens the door.
Exactly. As one member shared, I came to believe, and that has been my salvation. Spiritual reliance becomes the foundation, moving from a hostile, isolated world to one of support.
And for the agnostic.
It might start simply, acknowledging a force for good, the power of the group, the sheer unlikelihood of their own recovery path, being open to mystery, not demanding definition.
Which leads right into step 3. turning our will and lives over, described as like opening a door to a new life.
And the key to the door is willingness.
A profound, active decision to trust something beyond limited self-will, to relax and accept guidance, not fight it.
Moving from self-reliance, which meant self-destruction, to reliance on a higher power, letting go of carrying the burden of the universe, trusting the way will unfold step by step.
Willingness allows grace in. Sobriety as a free gift of God seems less about doing, more about a shift in perspective.
It is a conscious daily commitment to allow guidance, a radical shift from that insisting upon dominating or depending too much the egomania to accepting a different kind of authority.
Not weakness, but aligning with a greater force.
Believing God's will shall be revealed to me as I go forward, instead of trying to force your own will. Helplessness transformed into powerful surrender. Strength in relinquishing the illusion of control.
Okay, foundational shift made. Now, steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. Self-examination and release. Really about getting to know ourselves rigorously.
Step 4, the searching and fearless moral inventory, bringing discomfort into the light. Harms, resentments.
Not self-flagellation, but emptying that drawer of toxic grudges that might make me want to drink again. Brutal honesty. Acknowledging self-pity. Daunting.
Daunting, yes. A spiritual excavation, but essential. And step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That brings profound healing.
Sharing those truths with another person.
That vulnerability creates a new kind of relationship built on honesty and trust. Allows you to be seen for who we really are, maybe for the first time.
Transformative. Many report feeling God's presence during this step.
Yes, a unique experience of release, connection. The dammed up emotions of years break out and miraculously vanish as soon as they are exposed, like lancing an emotional boil.
Wow. Then, step 6 and 7, being entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, and then humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings.
And the source notes the importance of interpreting him, inclusively her, or another higher power.
Right, acknowledging that emotional turmoil, anger, resentment, jealousy, self-pity, these are emotional dry benders that can lead right back to drinking.
Exactly. Removing them is crucial for lasting sobriety. Otherwise, you're just sober and miserable.
Yeah.
This whole process confronts the roots of egomania, the unmanageable character traits.
It's about discovering the good and healthy within, too, right? Not just defects.
Yes, especially important perhaps for women conditioned to focus on flaws. Humility is the foundation. Without it, happiness and purpose are elusive. It's not about becoming perfect overnight, but being willing to let a higher power chip away at those defects.
And once the inner house is tidier. Step 9. Making amends. Requires good judgment, a careful sense of timing, courage, and prudence.
Making direct amends, wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
The goal is deeply personal. Make ourselves right with the world. No excuses. Letting the wronged person speak.
Requires true humility, commitment to change, moving past avoidance or justification, shedding fear and shame, creating a new identity based on integrity.
But that, except when to do so, would injure clause. That must be tricky. Needs guidance.
Absolutely. The primary purpose is to make us useful, reintegrate us, not necessarily to get forgiveness from someone not ready to give it.
So it's not always direct amends.
No, especially if it causes more harm to them or even you. Guidance from a sponsor is often crucial here, making sure it leads to healing, not more injury. It's practical application of principles over personalities, writing your own internal ship so you can move forward cleanly.
Now the program shifts from a one-time process to a continuous way of life. Step 10, continued personal inventory.
The daily practice. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
Not just spring cleaning, a continuous look at our assets and liabilities, a real desire to learn and grow.
This regular habit is essential to stay sober, keep an emotional balance, and live to good purpose, preventing new resentments, worries, fears from taking root.
Constant self-correction. Recognizing that for an alcoholic, the status quo can only be for today, never for tomorrow. Grow or deteriorate.
Vital. Keeps you attuned to your inner state. Address emotional dry benders quickly. Promotes living one day at a time. Cultivates humility, self-awareness. Respond to challenges with kindness, justice. Love not old patterns. Self-mastery through radical honesty.
Then step 11, conscious contact with a higher power. Seeking through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him.
Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out.
Detachment from external activity. Turning inward. seeking a different kind of connection, a recalibration.
Moving beyond intellectual understanding to an intimate daily relationship. Recognizing that in active addiction, you're cut off from inner peace.
What does this conscious contact feel like in practice? Always grand or more subtle?
Rarely grand like Bill's first awakening, though it can be. More often, subtle, consistent attunement, cultivating an inner ear.
Shifting from the material to the spiritual.
Because, as Bill realized, the alcoholic's striving was for the infinite, for transcendence. This step allows access to a boundless power, sustenance, to meet the needs of our lives, staying spirit-guided.
So it could be just a moment of quiet reflection, the feeling of peace, clear intuition.
Exactly, recognizing that constant connection, however subtle, provides guidance for daily living.
And finally, step 12. Carrying the message and practicing principles, described as the joy of living. Keyword, action.
Turning outward toward our fellow alcoholics who are still in distress.
The kind of giving that asks no rewards, provides a new purpose to be available to people who really need you.
Completes the cycle. Personal recovery transformed into selfless service. Helping others is integral to your own sobriety.
The ultimate paradox of recovery, isn't it? You keep it by giving it away.
It is indeed the ultimate paradox, and a brilliant one. Embodies the spiritual axiom, helping others helps yourself. Shifts distorted drives for self-importance to devoted service, egocentric to altruistic.
And in giving without expecting reward.
You receive the joy of living, a deep purpose nothing else provides. Reflects the idea that the spiritual life as admin needs consistent action, stepping outside self-centered values. This outward turn truly liberates, moving from merely existing to living a life full of interest and meaning.
Expanding the fellowship.
The 12 traditions.
Okay, so AA is growing like mushrooms everywhere, exploding, but so did the frightening experience of growing pains.
Not always smooth sailing, no. Chaos.
Headquarters got a large volume of work from every contestant and every group argument. The early days sound wild.
Also, moochers mooched, lonely hearts pined, committees quarreled, new clubs had unheard of headaches, orders held forth, groups split wide open, members turned professional. Sometimes whole groups got drunk, local public relations went haywire.
Wow. An organizational nightmare, a real testing ground for those principles. How did they possibly navigate that without imploding?
That's exactly why the 12 traditions became so vital. That chaos highlighted the urgent need for guiding principles for groups, just like the steps were for individuals.
Ah, makes sense.
This led directly to the traditions. They are, as the sources say, the spiritual foundation, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Ensuring unity and survival. Safeguarding the purpose and structure, born out of practical experience, mistakes. Proving, as Bill said, children of chaos. We have defiantly played with every brand of fire, only to emerge unharmed and we think wiser.
Collective lessons learned from nearly failing. Okay, let's unpack some key ones. Tradition 1, common welfare first.
Each member is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare comes first, but individual welfare follows close afterward.
Grounds the individual in the collective good. Survival of the fellowship is paramount for members' sobriety. Powerful statement about interdependence, especially for people often profoundly self-centered in addiction.
Indeed. Clarifies that while individual experience is crucial, group unity and integrity are essential. Teaches humility collectively. Focus on the shared mission, not letting individual desires for power fracture the group. A safeguard against egomania, now for the fellowship.
Then tradition 3, membership. Simply, our membership ought to include all who suffer alcoholism. Hence, we may refuse none who wish to recover.
And defining that, any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group.
Radical inclusivity breaks down barriers. Anyone, regardless of background, status, belief, can find a place. Contrasts sharply with earlier, often exclusive efforts.
Underscores that any alcoholic is a member when he says so. Self-identification over external criteria. Focus solely on alcoholism, not things that divide. A direct lesson from the Oxford group experience. Radical open arms.
Following that, tradition 4, autonomy. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole.
Allows local groups to manage their own affairs, even, strikingly, to exercise its right to be wrong.
Recognizing, as the source playfully puts it, children of chaos, played with every brand of fire, emerge unharmed and wiser. And that classic example, rule #62.
Don't take yourself too damn seriously. Perfect.
Allows experimentation, learning from mistakes locally, fosters resilience without rigid hierarchy, almost countercultural, that decentralized control.
Absolutely critical. Fosters local ownership, addresses diverse needs, balances group self-governance with collective responsibility, ensures local actions don't harm AA overall. Practical humility again. Groups pick themselves up. Wiser. Rule #62 encapsulates that spirit. Humor diffuses conflict.
Next, Tradition 5. Primary purpose. Each group has but one primary purpose: to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Laser-sharp focus.
The analogy of physicians finding a cancer cure illustrates it perfectly. Unwavering dedication, setting other ambitions aside at whatever personal cost.
Prevents getting sidetracked, keeps the fellowship effective.
Yeah.
Why was this singular focus so crucial? What's the danger of mission creep here?
Mission creep for an organization built on clear, shared purpose can be fatal. This focus is the lifeblood, prevents dilution, ensures all effort goes to the alcoholic in distress. Resources aren't diverted, however tempting.
Like getting into politics or social reform.
Exactly. It would fragment membership, dilute the message, undermine core effectiveness. This commitment transcends personal ambition. Recovery is life itself to us, simplifies everything, makes the path clear.
Moving to Tradition 8, non-professionalism. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional.
Clarifies that while service centers might employ staff and members might work in recovery fields professionally,
They are not hired to do AA's 12th step work.
the violation isn't being paid for related work, it's breaking anonymity, using the AA name for personal publicity or money raising.
A hard-won lesson keeps the spiritual message untainted by commercial interests, personal gain, protects integrity.
Incredibly important. Safeguards the spiritual voluntary nature of 12-step work. It's labor of love, mutual aid, not a paid profession. Protects AA from becoming a business. Maintains identity as a fellowship, not a treatment provider. If recovery becomes a commodity inside, the spiritual core and trust erode.
And Tradition 10, no outside issues. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy.
Safeguards focus. Recognizes involvement in external debates could kill our usefulness, divert us from our primary purpose.
Allows AA to stay universally accessible, avoids divisive political, religious, social stances that alienate people. Seems more vital than ever today, right?
Absolutely. Ensures unity, broad appeal, prevents fracturing from external conflicts, acknowledges members have citizen responsibilities, but AA as a whole must stay neutral. A strategic decision from early challenges, maintains a clear, safe, neutral space for anyone seeking recovery.
Okay, funding. Another big challenge, especially with Bill's ambitious plans. He and Dr. Bob meet John D. Rockefeller Jr.,
Rockefeller was much impressed.
but insightfully declined to give any large sum for fear of professionalizing AA. Gave a modest $5,000 instead.
And Bill later called that probably one of the best breaks that AA ever had.
Why? Because it forced them to remain fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Self-reliance became a defining strength, prevented corruption, external influence.
That initial model, based on attraction, not promotion, later Tradition 11, shaped AA's unique PR and growth profoundly. Message carried by example, spiritual appeal, not ads or endorsements.
Fosters trust, keeps focus on the individual, not fundraising or prestige.
Kept operating funds prudent. Prevented it becoming a seat of perilous wealth or power. Ensured selfless service remained the driving force, not money.
Bill Wilson's impact lasted decades, shaped millions of lives. He passed away January 24th, 1971.
Simple gravestone.
Yeah.
William G. Wilson, 1895-1971.
His apt final legacy was this persistent focus on AA unity. Understanding collective strength was paramount. Even in death, focus on the principles, the ongoing work, not personal glory. Humble servant to the end.
His life truly testifies to the power of hitting bottom and finding a spiritual path. A complex, brilliant, deeply human man. Through his own struggles, became the unlikely architect of this spiritual program.
Emphasizing quality sobriety, shifting from material to spiritual.
Because the alcoholic's striving was for the infinite, for transcendence. His legacy reminds us growth continues. He knew we have to grow or else deteriorate. Change we must, we cannot stand still. That wisdom forged in anguish, shared experience, guides millions. A timeless roadmap for personal evolution.
Oh, wow. What an incredible deep dive into Bill Wilson's life. Using Pass It On as our guide. From that challenging start in Vermont, through Wall Street highs, addiction lows, to becoming this accidental architect of a worldwide spiritual movement. It's a truly profound story of transformation, community.
It really
It's
is.
just deeply inspiring how one person's journey through such suffering could lay the foundation for this global network of healing, providing a roadmap for so many others.
Absolutely.
I'm really struck by how his intense personal isolation fueled the addiction. And then the very act of reaching out, helping others, became his insurance against a slip.
That reversal.
Yeah.
Profoundly counterintuitive, yet so effective.
Yeah.
And Bill's legacy reminds us, even after big changes, the journey continues. Never a destination, always a process. Learning, adapting, applying principles, one day at a time.
His words really resonate. We have to grow or else deteriorate. Change we must. We cannot stand still.
It's that ongoing process of self-discovery, spiritual progress.
Which leaves us with maybe a provocative question for you, our listener. In what areas of your own life might you be, maybe unconsciously, clinging to a comfortable status quo, resisting growth or change that could unlock deeper potential?
What's holding you back?
And what is your personal spiritual axiom, maybe, that can guide you towards continuous progress? Like Bill's journey forged a path for millions.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Bill Wilson's remarkable life and the enduring principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. A story of hope, resilience, and the extraordinary power of shared human experience.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep growing.